Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet Grants panel being held via remote video link on Monday, the 28th of June at 4 p.m. I'm going to hand over to Franca Currell, who will take us through the roll call and the virtual meeting explanation, and also the election of a new chairman, as it is the first meeting of the new civic year. Thank you, Franca.
Thank you, Councillor Webster. I'll start with the roll call. Councillor Webster.
Present.
Councillor Hillier.
Present.
And Councillor Belsey.
Present.
Lovely, thank you. I will now move on to the remote virtual explanation. I shall keep it the shorter version, as we have done loads of these meetings before. Just to say, it has been introduced to hold its meetings to include participants to attend remotely. The following procedure will apply to this meeting. During the meeting, all participants will be in control of their own microphone. You should set your microphone to mute until such time as the chairman invites you to speak. If you wish to speak, you should indicate by activating the raised hand function, which is found in your participants list. The chairman has absolute discretion as to the order in which he invites participants to speak. When the chairman indicates you can speak, you must unmute your microphone. Once you've finished speaking, please will you mute yourself again, and also remember, if your hand is raised, to lower it again. If you have made a declaration of an interest, that means you will need to leave this meeting. Please indicate when this occurs, when the chairman asks. The Democratic Services Officer will place you in a holding place before the start of the relevant item, where you will be unable to be heard or hear the meeting. You will be held there until that particular agenda item has finished. Voting during this meeting will be held by the yes or no button, again, which is found in your participants list. The usual rules for debates apply to this meeting, and the chairman has ultimate discretion. That concludes the virtual meeting explanation. Now moving on to item 2 of the agenda, which is to elect a chairman for this next civic year. Can I ask a proposer? Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Frank. I'd like to nominate Councillor Norman Webster, please.
Thank you. And is that all agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Lovely. I shall now hand you over to Councillor Webster, who will move on to item number 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Franca, and thank you, colleagues, for your support in electing me as chairman. And I would now like to nominate Councillor Hillier as vice chairman. Councillor Belsey, do you wish to second that?
I'm very happy to second that, Chairman.
Thank you, then that's agreed. Congratulations, Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Chairman.
Item 4 is to note substitutes in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 4. As we're all here, there are no substitutes. Item 5 is to receive apologies for absence. As we're all here, there are none. Item 6 is to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 interests to declare, both under agenda item 11. And the first one is, apologies, I'm getting to the right pages in my minutes, is in relation to the application.
Page 29.
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping all over my paper. Basically, there's an application in from St Francis Sports and Social Club for considerable sum of monies to progress things. whilst I'm not a member of the club nor involved in any kind of governance stuff there, I am a regular user and I am involved in conversations with the leaders of that project on a fairly regular basis. The other one is in agenda item 11, Sussex Club's Young People, the refurbishment of the Barn Cottage Pavilion. That is basically a partnership project, one of the main partners of which is the Bentswood Community Partnership, which I chair. So whilst there is no pecuniary interest, there is obviously a very strong interest in my involvement through that association. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. That interest in Sussex Clubs for Young People is noted. Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not sure it's sort of necessarily a declarable interest, but just to highlight that I am chairman of Age UK East Grinstead, and there is a grant being put forward for Age UK West Sussex, which is independent of Age UK East Grinstead, but we do have some contracts with West Sussex that we are subcontractors of for Age UK West Sussex. So I just thought it might be helpful just to highlight that.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. And can you just confirm that Age UK East Grinstead will not benefit in any way from this particular application? Right, thank you. All right. Item 7 is to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the panel held on the 15th of March 2021. Are those agreed? I see nods from Councillor Hillier and Councillor Belsey. Thank you, and Councillor Belsey for using the button as well. Item 8 is to consider items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business, and I have none. And item 9 is to receive representation from members of the council on the applications. Gentlemen, have you received any communications in respect of any of these applications? No, thank you. Neither have I. Item 10 is the corporate grant scheme, community and economic development grants on pages 17 onwards. And Emma Sheridan, are you going to take us through this paper?
Yes, I am, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this paper takes the panel through the 13 community grants that were received for application in this round. Each grant is detailed within the paper, giving reasons either why officers recommend a grant and the sum of that grant, or the reasons why no grant is recommended. For those grants that no award is recommended, that is because those applications do not meet the stated criteria of the Community Grants Fund, as was recently reviewed by this panel earlier in the year. Where organisations are not eligible for this grant, panel members can be assured that officers are continuing to liaise with those organisations and direct them to more suitable grant funding and providing assistance with that on an ongoing basis. We'd like to draw members' attention to one particularly large recommendation, which is the Age UK West Sussex and Brighton and Hove, which is a grant award suggestion of £20,000. Members will be aware that that is significantly larger than our normal grant award under this programme. This is a specific project at a specific time and linked to wider investment in the Keemer Brick and Tile old building, whereby the developer has provided as part of the development the building structure itself. So there's been no charge to create the building, but some additional funds are required for fixtures and fittings to get the building fit to open. The building itself will serve the whole community and won't just be simply an Age UK facility. It will be open and available to the wider community, but just managed on behalf of the council by Age UK. we are in the final stages of negotiating a long-term lease with Age UK for that building, and obviously any award would be determined by that lease actually finally being signed and legally agreed. So if the lease, for any reason, which we don't suspect it will, but if for any reason that didn't happen, then the grant would not be awarded. So happy to take any questions on individual items if members have them. The only other notable awards in there, members will notice, are Sheddington Community Association and Windmills Opportunity Group. Those grant purposes are rental costs, which members will recall was something the review of the criteria stated last year that we would no longer fund under this grant. However, these particular issues are, this is the last payment of a long-standing historic arrangement with those organisations. The rental lease agreements terminate in November this year, and we are in negotiations with Windmills to take that on a more sustainable footing through proper estates leases rather than annual community grant funding in the near future. So this is just tying up loose ends of a historic situation that was explained, I think, when we discussed these particular items this time last year. So happy to take any questions that members might have.
Good, thank you very much, Emma. Gentlemen, questions? Councillor Hillier. Councillor Hillier, could you just confirm that you've made a declaration about Sussex clubs for young people, and I understand it's in a different town, but for purposes of transparency, can you just confirm that your interests won't be benefiting from the £5,000 application for youth sessions at Court Bushes? It's completely different.
Yeah, I shouldn't do. Obviously, I don't have access to that organisation's accounts. One assumes that run is ring-fenced for that. So,
will be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I've got a few questions and comments, and some are technical. But if I may, first of all, I'm going through the bullet paras on the paper. So, page 19, bullet 10, the Burgess Hill Shed. Excellent project. That's all very good. Just want to check. They say I've got a 3-year lease. Is there a lot of break options in that? I just would be concerned if we'd obviously gifted them some money, then in 6 months' time, the landlord suddenly issued them with a break option. So would be interested in that. But other than that, I'm very supportive. It's an excellent project that does a huge amount of good. Carers supporting West Sussex. Again, fantastic. Sussex Baby Group, again, and I would like to indulge, Chairman, if I may, just to make a wider comment on that. I'm especially pleased to see this, and probably also the Windmills Opportunity Playgroup, to become aware to myself, and it's something I'm trying to tackle in other places, that obviously throughout the whole of COVID, parent, toddler, baby groups just have not functioned. And we have a whole generation of parents and babies who've had no access to peer-to-peer support. That little bit of stuff that as a new parent, most of us could probably remember being parents, and it doesn't seem that it was long since we've been a child ourselves, and suddenly we have to care for a little one without any manual. And these groups are essential. So it's a really important wide point, I feel, that I think needs to be addressed higher up. But I just want to say I think this is an excellent application. So thank you, officers, and totally supported. And Emma Sheridan has answered my question on the other one. So that is all I have to say. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hillier. And I absolutely endorse your comments about young parent and baby groups. They are essential. And I am very pleased to see that this baby group is actually working, because many of them haven't worked throughout lockdown, and I'm really pleased to see this application coming forward. So I am in full agreement with you. Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to support the recommendations. I just thought, though, just looking at the both the ones recommended for approval and those not recommended for approval. This time round, quite a lot of them are sort of centred more on the southern part of the district as opposed to the northern part. And I just wondered if I was watching as a northern resident, whether this would be any particular concerns, or whether, I know it varies from paper to paper, but just whether there might be any particular reasons for that. And then secondly, the Albion in the community projects, again, we've obviously seen those before and supported those before in Hurstpier Point, Burgess Hill and Haywards Heath. Obviously, there are a lot of Brighton supporters up in East Grinstead and some of the villages in the north. And I did wonder whether it might be possible to encourage or suggest to Albion in the community that, if possible, maybe they could try and organise a couple of events up in the East Grinstead or north part of the district as well as the remainder. I'm sure that would be much welcomed by residents in the north who are very keen on the seagulls. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Emma, do you wish to say anything in response?
Certainly, Chairman, thank you. With regard to the geographical split, as you quite rightly mentioned, Councillor Belzy, these things do ebb and flow from panel to panel meeting, depending on the applications. The good news is, given the comprehensive review that we did of the Cabinet Grants applications earlier this year, over the last 5 years, there was indication that there was a good, reasonably equitable split across the district, across both, not only north-south, but divided reasonably equally across the 3 towns, and also stretching out into our villages and rural areas. A large number of the things that we fund actually serve the community of the whole district as a whole, where their services. But yes, that is the case with this particular panel. But I'd just like to give assurance that generally the trend is that over any given year, that there is a reasonable geographical split across the district. It is something that officers keep an eye on. And we do encourage bids from organisations across the whole district, both those that serve particular local communities, but also those that serve the district as a whole. And officers would flag to members if we thought there was a particular issue of bids not coming forward from either a particular town or village, a particular sector of the community, or a particular service area that we felt was in need. And members have, not just of this panel, but ward members across the district have been very helpful in terms of encouraging and working with other organisations as well to encourage those bids. So we don't consider it an issue at this time in the year, but it is something we'll keep an eye on. So hopefully that'll give you some reassurance in that. In terms of Albion and the community, yes, absolutely, quite happy to have that conversation with them when we're in discussion with them, as we are frequently on provision across the district. And just to touch in on the point that Councillor Hillier raised about the lease option for the men's shed, we can certainly look at that. It would be standard practice in any lease for there to be break clauses on both sides. But our view is to work with all the organisations that we grant fund to make sure that what they're proposing is sustainable for the lifetime of the grant, and that it has longer term benefits for the community. So we have a long history of working with Men's Shed, and we'd continue to do so. So we don't consider that a significant risk at this time, but do need to acknowledge that any lease will always have break clauses in it. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Emma. So, gentlemen, we are asked to consider and decide upon the recommendation of each of the applications detailed, summaries of which are attached in Appendix A, and those applications have been considered and recommendations made by the Community Grants Assessment Group. Are we in agreement, gentlemen? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And that takes us on to agenda item 11, which is on page 30, I believe, 29. And I believe, Elaine, you're going to take us through these?
Yes, I will, thank you.
Thank you.
So the covering report for this item for the facility grants and release of Section 106 monies has got 4 recommendations in it. The first one refers to the new grant applications that we've received, which are detailed in Appendix A. So we had 4 new applications, and the other 3 recommendations, B to D, relate to St Francis Sports and Social Club, which was discussed by members of this panel in October 2020, but the resolution that was agreed was not sufficiently clear for us to proceed with the grant agreement. So this paper just seeks to clarify some issues. So that's detailed in, I think it's 8 to 11, paragraph 8 to 11 of this report. The grant that it's referring to is the £405,374 to the St Francis Sports and Social Club to enable them to go ahead with the swimming pool changing rooms, and that's part funded by SIL receipts that we have been awarded by Lewes District Council. And this paper seeks formal agreement for us to enter into the grant agreement with Lewes District Council, to withdraw the existing grant agreement, which was with the St Francis Sports and Social Club, CIC, and to issue a new grant agreement, which is to the club, St Francis Sports and Social Club, which is a different legal entity, but it is the freehold owner of the land where the pool changing rooms are going to be constructed. So this is just trying to just clarify some of that and tie up the loose ends. So if I move on to Appendix A, there are 4 applications, one from Skanes Hill Millennium Village Centre, and the award suggested is £2,000 for an air ventilation system, which would upgrade their existing air conditioning to put in some extraction system that takes germs out, which they're hoping will encourage people back and to feel more confident about using the building. There's one to Ashen Ground Community Centre for £5,814 for the installation of LED lighting, which they have partly installed in one bit of the building, and they want to complete that across the building. And then the other 2 projects, Sussex Clubs for Young People and the Scout project, are 2 separate grants, but the 2 projects are interrelated and dependent on one another to achieve improved community facilities in Bentswood on Barn Cottage Recreation Ground, which I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, you've both got your green ticks still showing from the previous vote. And if I could just ask that we take questions on the 3 applications apart from the Sussex Clubs for Young People until Councillor Hillier has left the room. Are there any questions, gentlemen? No, thank you.
Sorry, Chairman, I didn't get I got confused between muting and unmuting in hand. No, just it's a small amount, but just that that air ventilation system one was interesting to me, just from a wider perspective in terms of whether we should be encouraging more or looking at more support of other centres with air ventilation systems, or whether they, if indeed they are effective, as I think it suggests that they are, whether that's something that we should be trying to get more general support across the district for. I was just interested in people's thoughts or your thoughts.
Elaine, would you like to respond to that? And then I would like to say something after that.
Yes, I mean, I think we did write to all of the community buildings last year, all of the ones where we were holding Section 106 receipts, where they could make improvements to the buildings and encourage them to apply. And I think with this particular system, it's an upgrade to their existing air conditioning. So it's something that they can add on quite easily. Whereas I think with other community buildings, it might be more difficult. But yeah, I think it is a very interesting proposal, and it may well be something that other groups want to do, you know, if they see it working here.
Thank you. And Councillor Belsey, I'm very pleased that you actually highlighted that, because as somebody myself who has lived with a compromised immune system for many years, you will know that whenever I go into a meeting room, I open the windows, and I don't like to be in a meeting room that is enclosed for that very reason. And I was very pleased to see this application coming forward. And I would certainly encourage other property owners and management organizations to look at the facilities that they're managing very carefully and apply for grants wherever they and whenever they become available, because there are many different sources of grants, not only Mid Sussex District Council. On that basis, therefore, gentlemen, can we agree the recommendations outlined at 3, A, B, C, and D? And I don't propose reading them out, but they're all clear. Sorry, Councillor Hillier, I've missed your question.
It wasn't a question, and it wasn't. Apologies, Chairman. My hand went up late, so you were not faulting anyone. I just wanted to speak briefly just in favour of the District Scout Council application. As you're aware, this is in my ward and division, and it's, touch wood, is going to be a hugely beneficial thing. Obviously, the young people in Bentswood, as it says in the reports, relatively deprived, and to have a scout presence here in the community is hopefully going to make a huge difference to the young people. And without embarrassing her, well, I'm going to embarrass her, I just wanted to thank and congratulate the officers, Elaine Clark in particular, I know, who spent many hours over many months working with all the partners, and to get that to this stage, I on a personal level, am very appreciative and obviously very supportive of it. That was all I wanted to say. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hillier, and I absolutely agree with everything that you've said. I think this will be a real benefit to that community, and it's good to see this application coming forward. And I will just raise my tick. So those 3 organisations, Skeins Hill Millennium Village Centre, Ashen Ground Community Centre, and Mid Sussex District Scout Council, are agreed. And can officers please remove Councillor Hillier from the room? And Councillor Belsey, do you have any questions about the Barn Cottage Pavilion refurbishment and Sussex clubs for young people?
I don't have any questions, Chairman. I know it's a substantial amount of money, but my understanding is that obviously we believe it's going to be very worthwhile, and that the pavilion refurbishment and the new community centre will be much needed and will be well received by local residents across Haywards Heath and potentially beyond.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Belsey. And the report on this is particularly full and explanatory. There has been a long history here of, well, not a long history, but a history of many long hours of work attached to this application. So congratulations to the officers, and I will raise my green hand as well, and there we are. We are approved. Could officers please allow Councillor Hillier back into the room? And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the meeting, as there is no further business to discuss, and it is 16:29. I'm sorry, I thought Elaine Clark had a question. Sorry.
I just wanted to check that 3A, B, C, and D were all approved. You approved those but previously, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Great.
we did. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member